Howdy folks, we got another rum talk for you today, and let me tell you something. Thanks to rum, my geography knowledge is increasing because today we got some rums from places that, even if I'd heard of them, I didn't know anything about them. So now we get to drink rums from these places that I barely know anything about. Amazing. Today we got rums from the Indian Ocean. Let's go. So growing up, my education was pretty lacking when it came to geography, but now these days I'm learning about it through rum, which is kind of amazing. Today we got 3 rums to try. 2 are from the island of Réunion, and 1 is from the island of Mauritius. These are 2 small islands pretty near to each other, right off the coast of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean, which is on the, off the east coast of Africa. Now, a quick word about Agricole before we dive into these. Most people associate Agricole with Martinique, which is where most of the Agricole comes from, but there are other places that also are allowed to make Agricole. And when I say Agricole, I mean they're allowed to use the name Agricole because they follow the French rules. Now, among the other French colonies that are allowed to make Agricole, one of them is Réunion. So our first rum is a Holmes Key Réunion Agricole from the Savanah Distillery. That's in Saint Andre on the island of Réunion. Now, another fun fact, Agricole is not the only style of rum that you can make in these formerly French colonies that has an AOC. There is a second style, and it's called Grand Aromé. Grand Aromé is basically France's answer to funky Jamaican rum. It is molasses rum that is made in a column still, and it has to have an ester level of at least 500, which is high. That's like Rumfire, Hamden, HGLF kind of very high esters. And guess what? My friend Ross at work had bought a bottle of the Holmes Key Grand Aromé from Réunion, so I arranged to trade a little sample, and we're gonna try that today as well. The third rum we have is a Transcontinental Rum from Mauritius. Mauritius is another island I didn't know a whole lot about, except from reading Patrick O'Brian novels. Now, if you've been following along, you already know that Transcontinental is an independent bottling label run by La Maison and Vellier. They'll get rums from various places and bring them to France and bottle them up. Now, this one is column stilled at the Grays Distillery. It is aged in the tropics in ex-bourbon barrels for 3 years, then shipped to France by the Transcontinental folks, La Maison and Vellier, bottled there and, shipped around the world. Now, this is going to be a pretty different style from the first 2, but I'm including it in the lineup because, they all come from the same neighborhood. I thought that'd be fun. Indian Ocean rums today. Okay, so let's get on to the rums. First up is Holmes Key Reunion Island Agricole rum. This one is 50% alcohol. Cost me $45, which is not bad. Let's get right into it. This is unaged Agricole, so, completely clear, and it smells like Agricole. It is it's grassy, but it's got a certain other thing that every time I smell or taste this, it hits me in the face every time. I don't know if you've ever been to the beach and you've blown up a beach ball, and you put your mouth on that little valve. And it's got like this certain aroma of like off-gassing plastic. That's what this smells like. It smells like a beach ball, a brand new beach ball. It's really hard to get past that beach ball thing, but let me just give this a taste. It's not super savory like some of the rums we've been drinking. That beach ball off-gassing plastic flavor is also very present here, especially in the aftertaste as it evaporates on your tongue. All those sort of aromas go up into your sinuses, and I'm back on the beach blowing up a beach ball. If you can get past the beach ball thing, it's actually a pretty mellow Agricole. It's it's grassy, but it's got sort of a short finish, and it's it's not super intense, which is nice. Some of these bottles I've been trying are a little bit over the top, but This one is got this super specific beach ball thing going on. This beach ball thing really throws me for a loop, but I gotta stop saying beach ball. This is one of those bottles where I keep going back to it to try and get past the rubber smell and try and figure out what else I'm getting, and it's really difficult. That beach ball thing is real. It is something I go back to sometimes because I'm curious if I can taste anything else in there, but I don't think it's something I would go back to all the time just for fun. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the Holmes Key Réunion Grand Aromé. This also comes from the Savanah Distillery. It is 57.5% alcohol, so quite a bit higher. Cost me $65. The bottle cost $65. I got this sample from my friend Ross, as I said before. Now, as I mentioned, the ester levels are supposedly 500 at a minimum in this. I'm expecting a big wallop. It doesn't have that same Jamaican kind of funk. I think however they're getting the esters in there is going to be somehow different than what they do in Jamaica. It's got a little bit of that plastic beach ball, but not nearly as much as the other one. It's got a little bit of like a mustard smell. Reminds me a little bit of a clarin in that way. Not really olivey, but a little bit savory. Let me give it a taste. It is weird. It is got a little bit of that plastic, but not much. It's savory, but not olivey exactly. Maybe a little bit olivey in the aftertaste, but mostly sort of a mustard flavor. It doesn't have the esters that you would think of as from a Jamaican. Like, I don't really find it to be super fruity or like a lot of tropical fruits, or at least not your typical tropical fruits. Maybe it's got a little bit of like a coconut flavor. It's actually not terrible, but it is sort of wild in its mustard flavor. It is not like other rums that I've tasted, I don't think. I think maybe the closest thing is maybe like a clarin, something savory, but it's not overwhelming. The 500 ester level had me a little spooked, but it's actually not that intense. It's just sort of oddly flavored. It's actually surprisingly easy to drink given that it's 57%. It's actually not terrible. It's a little bit weird though. I think I prefer it to the Agricole, but this is not something I'm going to probably drink in a real hurry either. All right, so far I'm not raving about these. They're pretty weird, and if you like weird stuff, then you might like these, but I mean, mustardy rum beach balls, it's a little strange. Let me move on to the Mauritius. This should be a completely different animal. Like I said, this is Transcontinental Mauritius. It's 3 years old. It was distilled in 2017, bottled in 2021. It costs $62, and it is 50% alcohol. It has a lovely sort of caramel color and smells much more normal, like much more just like a nice tropical rum. Like a solid column still rum is really good. We're getting a lot of sort of caramely notes, like a candy corn. Yeah, getting like apple and pear. Okay, I get a lot of that apple, a lot of the sort of notes from the bourbon barrel. It's like a solid column still tropical rum. It's something along the lines of like an Angostura, or maybe something from Trinidad or something like that. Just like a solid, pretty good column still rum. I don't know if it's worth $62, but they can make perfectly normal rums out in the Indian Ocean, it would seem. All right, let's recap. I got three pretty weird ones here today. The Réunion Agricole, a bit strange. I said beach ball 100 times, but I just can't get it out of my mind. The Grand Aromé is more interesting, I think, a little more complex, but not as overwhelming as I thought it would be given the 500 ester level. I don't know that I would really want to invest in a whole bottle of either of these. If you can get a sample or trade someone for it, I mean, they're worth trying, but I don't know if they're the next big thing. Transcontinental Mauritius, not bad, but I don't think it's anything super special. It tastes to me like a pretty good column stilled rum that you could get from, from the Caribbean. So maybe not worth $62, but, pretty good. Well, I think that's about all I got for you. But sometimes I do get the question of what we would use these in a cocktail. And my answer usually is that the easiest thing is like a tea punch. You could also like add this for a little zazz to say a daiquiri or an old fashioned. Those are always good options. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gather up a bunch of my weird rum bottles and make a bunch of El Presidentes and just do a video trying a bunch of super weird El Presidentes. I think that would be pretty fun too. So stay tuned for that. I'll make that in the next few weeks probably. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.